Hello, Kai Huyen Insights is back. It's not too hard to notice that 2025 is shaping up to be a year on the margins of history, reminiscent of the roaring 1920s. As the world reaches the quarter-century mark, it begins to outline the trajectory it might follow for the next 100 years. And it seems increasingly likely that the 21st century will be remembered for the rivalry between the United States and China. Amidst the brewing storm of this great confrontation, one figure emerges as the wielder of fate in this high-stakes drama. That figure is none other than Xi Jinping. The burning question remains, does this man possess the strength and strategy to lead China past the global hegemon that has dominated for over half a century, the United States? This is the subject we'll delve into today. Let's dive in. At first glance, one might find certain similarities between Xi Jinping and Donald Trump. Both are tall and broad-shouldered, with square-shaped faces and a commanding presence. The most noticeable differences? One is an Asian man with black hair and single-lidded eyes, while the other is Caucasian with blonde hair and double-lidded eyes. Amusingly, both share a common characteristic. They've refused to stop at just one marriage. Truly, they both exude the aura of leaders in their respective nations. However, beneath the surface, Xi Jinping and Donald Trump could not be more different. Trump, the son of a New York real estate mogul, was so headstrong as a youth that his father sent him to military school for discipline. Xi Jinping's upbringing, on the other hand, was worlds apart. Instead of being born into a business dynasty, his father, Xi Zhongxun, was a revolutionary stalwart of the Communist Party. This stark contrast in their roots sets the stage for an exploration of their leadership styles, motivations, and the futures they might carve for their nations. Let the story begin. At first glance, Trump's youthful days of studying at West Point might seem more grueling. However, the reality is starkly different. While Trump's journey involved navigating the privileged yet disciplined world of a military academy, Xi Jinping endured a true nightmare during his formative years. During China's Cultural Revolution, Xi Jinping's father, Xi Zhongxun, was branded a counter-revolutionary. He was arrested, brutally beaten to the brink of death, and stripped of his status. Young Xi Jinping, caught in the fallout, was banished from Beijing and sent to a remote village called Liangjiahe in Shanxi province. Here, Xi Jinping spent nearly a decade enduring grueling manual labor. From hauling manure to digging in coal mines, his life was one of hardship and survival. The only possession he carried from his departure from Beijing was a small bag embroidered with the words "Mother's Heart," lovingly stitched by his mother. It wasn't until Jiang Qing and the Gang of Four were prosecuted, signaling the end of the Cultural Revolution, that Xi Zhongxun was rehabilitated. With his father's exoneration, Xi Jinping was allowed to return to the capital. Years later, Xi Jinping would reflect on his time in the countryside during the Cultural Revolution, describing it as a crucible that shaped his resilience and worldview. This chapter of his life is a testament to the profound trials that forged the man who would later rise to the pinnacle of China's leadership. In a speech delivered at Citado during his visit to the United States, Xi Jinping described his journey as one of transformation. He referred to himself as a city-born youth who, through his rural exile, discovered the struggles of ordinary Chinese people in the countryside. This revelation ignited his determination to make a meaningful difference. And indeed, Xi Jinping has made a lasting impact. As the saying goes, great dreams begin with small bricks. Instead of pursuing high-profile positions in major cities, Xi chose a humble starting point in a remote, impoverished town in Hebei province, where he served as the deputy party secretary of a county. From there, he carved an unconventional and winding path back to Beijing. His rise began modestly, from deputy party secretary in a small county to deputy mayor of Xiamen City. Over 17 years, he steadily ascended the ranks, culminating in his appointment as the party secretary of Shanghai in 2007, a role of immense prestige and power. For many officials in China, reaching the position of Shanghai party secretary would signify the pinnacle of success. The post not only offers significant financial perks, but also keeps one relatively independent from central government scrutiny, allowing room for unchecked influence. But as I mentioned earlier, Xi Jinping's ambitions extended far beyond leading Shanghai. Just 1 year after his arrival in the city, Xi returned to his hometown, Beijing, in an even greater capacity. In 2008, he oversaw the preparations for the Beijing Olympics, a role that solidified his standing on the national stage and marked a pivotal turning point in his political career. This was not just a return to the capital. It was a leap toward the heights of power he had long envisioned. Just 4 years later, Xi Jinping officially became the General Secretary of the Chinese Communist Party. It seemed as though the circle had come full. The boy who once labored in the fields, hauling manure and digging trenches, had not only returned home, but had risen to the pinnacle of power. However, this was far from the end of his story. It was merely the beginning. Xi Jinping had always harbored ambitions far greater than the title of General Secretary. From his early childhood in Beijing, Xi was deeply fascinated by classical Chinese poetry and literature. He was captivated by the imagery of imperial courts and the power of the Celestial Empire, once the center of the known world. Now, as the leader of modern China, Xi didn't want to be seen merely as a general secretary. He sought to embody something far grander, a modern emperor. Before dismissing this notion in the comments, dear readers, let us consider the evidence. Reflect on the 13 years of his leadership so far. Even the number 13 uninterrupted years in power surely raises questions. Does this not seem to contradict the path of reform laid out by Deng Xiaoping, who advocated for leadership term limits and collective governance? Xi's unprecedented tenure marks a stark deviation from the reformist legacy of Deng. It signals not just a consolidation of power, but a deliberate move to reshape China's political structure in a way that harks back to its imperial roots. This is not merely leadership. It is a vision of dominion that transcends titles and terms. Indeed, that is the case. Since the era of Mao Zedong, no individual in China has emerged as a leader wielding such public prominence and consolidation of power over a nation as vast and formidable as Xi Jinping has. With a population of 1.3 billion, China has not seen a leader so frequently in the public eye or so forceful in centralizing authority. Not since Mao has any Chinese leader pushed forward a sweeping agenda of restoring traditional values and the raw power of the Communist Party, as Xi Jinping has. From the Tiananmen Square incident in 1989 until today, no leader in China has taken such aggressive measures to halt, even reverse, any fledgling steps toward political openness as Xi Jinping has. Xi's rise is considered a pivotal turning point because he, along with a cohort of nationalist senior officials, effectively dismantled the collective leadership model in 2012. For decades, ultimate authority in China was distributed through a decentralized framework. Key policies were approved by consensus among the Politburo Standing Committee, the core decision-making body. This collective leadership structure was the brainchild of Deng Xiaoping, the reformist leader who opened China to the world. Deng's system was partly designed to prevent a resurgence of Mao-style personality cults and the potential for another cultural revolution. By distributing power, it ensured that no single leader could grow too powerful, serving as an internal safeguard against authoritarian overreach. However, Xi Jinping's ascension marked the unraveling of this system. His consolidation of power has fundamentally shifted the dynamics of Chinese governance, replacing decades of consensus-driven decision-making with a model that revolves around a single, unchallenged figure at the helm. This not only reflects a break from the Deng-era reforms, but also signals a return to centralized authority reminiscent of imperial rule. And indeed, following the tenure of Jiang Zemin and Hu Jintao, China seemed to embody a more harmonious and amicable face to the world. Both leaders presided over an era where China appeared eager to learn from the outside world and rise peacefully within Asia. Importantly, neither sought a third term, unlike Xi Jinping. However, from Xi's perspective, both predecessors were too subdued in their approach. Xi viewed Jiang and Hu not as transformative leaders, but as interim caretakers or mere managers of the state. In Xi's eyes, the Deng-era vision of collective leadership lacked the decisive authoritarian figure that China needed. A strongman capable of quelling conflicting interest groups and curbing the rampant corruption threatening both the Communist Party's dominance and the nation's economic progress. And in truth, Xi's vision was not entirely misguided. China, with its long history of centralized imperial rule, has often thrived under strong, unified leadership. To Xi and many of his supporters, a unified and authoritarian China was the natural path to reclaiming its historical identity as the Middle Kingdom, the center of the universe. The grandeur of a resurgent China, they believe, hinges on finding its next emperor, a celestial sovereign capable of eliminating obstacles, both domestic and international, to consolidate the mainland into a singular, cohesive force. As evidenced by the dramatic transformations over the past decade under Xi's leadership, this vision is no longer theoretical. It is an unfolding reality, leaving little room for doubt about his intentions or the trajectory of modern China. Xi Jinping has called upon loyal party members to eradicate what he terms foreign influences in their thinking. Any notions tinged with democracy, transparency, or independent thought must be eliminated. The new doctrine is clear. All citizens and officials must align themselves with the ideology of Xi Jinping, which has even been incorporated into the national school curriculum. When it comes to China's sovereignty, Xi has displayed a hardline stance that surpasses even the most uncompromising figures within the party. He has taken severe measures against the Uyghur minority in Xinjiang, cracking down on what he deems rebellious elements in the region. His message to Taiwan regarding reunification with China is even more unyielding. In Hong Kong, he extinguished any hope for free and fair elections with the suppression of democratic aspirations in 2017. Chinese state media portrays Xi as a man chosen by historical destiny. This narrative is not far-fetched. Having endured the chaos of the Cultural Revolution and now witnessing China's rise on the global stage, Xi embodies the arc of the nation's tumultuous journey. As China recovers from the fractures inflicted by Mao, it's worth recalling Deng Xiaoping's famous strategy, hide your light and bide your time. Yet Xi appears to believe that China's era of lying low is over. Under his leadership, China has moved from quiet consolidation to bold assertion. Xi's vision is clear. This is no longer a time for subtlety, but a moment for China to claim its place alongside global powers like Japan, the United States, and Europe. For the first time under Xi Jinping's leadership, China is aggressively pursuing militarized stances in the Pacific waters, challenging East Asian powers like Japan, Vietnam, the Philippines, and even the global superpower, the United States. China's territorial claims now extend to vast seas and airspaces far beyond historical precedents. However, it would be overly simplistic to immediately label Xi as a brutal autocrat suppressing democracy. While his governance is indeed unforgiving, many Chinese citizens express a sense of gratitude and respect for him. Before Xi's rise to power, during the tenure of Hu Jintao, China appeared outwardly stable, but was internally rotting away. A network of so-called new princelings, wealthy tycoons, and the offspring of Communist Party elites, sons and daughters of China's ruling families, competed for influence within the party. Enormous streams of wealth flowed out of state-controlled sectors like telecommunications, mining, steel, and construction, siphoned off into the hands of corrupt officials and subsequently funneled abroad. At one point, it seemed as though the Communist Party of China might be nearing collapse. But then came the Man of Steel, mockingly referred to as Winnie the Pooh by Donald Trump, who transformed the landscape. With an iron fist, Xi systematically brought down the power brokers behind shadowy interest groups, dragging them to the courts to face justice. This crackdown was more than a political purge. It was a recalibration of the party's legitimacy and authority. By dismantling the entrenched networks of corruption, Xi Jinping repositioned himself not merely as a leader, but as a force capable of unifying a fragmented and self-serving political elite under his singular vision for China's future. From Bo Xilai to Li Keqiang, and even senior officials within the Ministry of Public Security, nearly 3,000 corrupt princelings and officials have been brought down under Xi Jinping's uncompromising anti-corruption campaign. This crackdown has instilled fear among wrongdoers and earned respect from the general public. Many analysts in China believe Xi envisions himself as a great leader capable of crafting a monumental vision. He seems to see himself as the wind and the people as the flag. He will blow, and the people will bend and align, progressing together. In 2013, a year after Xi assumed leadership, 82 million Chinese citizens lived in extreme poverty. According to World Bank data, by 2019, this number had dropped to just 6 million. Another significant achievement is the surge in household wealth. Between 2013 and 2020, urban household income rose by 66%, while rural households saw an even greater increase of 82%. Finally, under Xi's leadership, China's GDP has doubled, growing from $9.5 trillion in 2013 to $18 trillion by 2024. These milestones illustrate Xi's efforts to consolidate his legacy not only through political power, but also by delivering tangible economic and social progress for the Chinese people. His tenure, while polarizing, has undeniably reshaped China's position on the global stage. So, can Xi Jinping lead China past the United States? I fear that's not an easy task, at least not with the time he has left in power. While Xi has indeed created a more united and cleaner China, the core of development and adaptation to the modern era still sees him holding on to his delusional dreams. The personal qualities that have allowed him to govern effectively are now ill-suited for the next phase, one that demands a more open economy and a society full of innovation and progress. I still believe Xi is a remarkable leader, truly rare in today's world. He embodies the essence of a strong, patriotic, and people-understanding leader of China, not a figure of hegemony. And such figures are becoming increasingly rare in global politics. However, to overcome the U.S. behemoth, I doubt Xi has enough time left for such an ambition. But that's just my opinion. Kaihuin Insights is genuinely interested in hearing the views of our beloved audience. Please join the conversation in the comments section. For now, goodbye, and see you again soon.